In this video, we're going to be breaking down 5 MLB games happening on August 18, 2026, and providing you with a side pick and a total pick for every matchup. As usual, visit our channel for the rest of today's game picks and stick around until the end because you won't want to miss out on anything. Seattle Mariners versus Milwaukee Brewers. The way this matchup lines up on paper feels almost too tidy for the home dugout. Their lefty gets the ball at his own address, and this has quietly turned into the kind of place where he simply does not lose much. 10 starts under his own roof, only 1 loss on the ledger, and an earned run average that lands well under a run and a half. That is the sort of number you scroll past twice just to make sure you actually read it right. He is missing bats, he is controlling counts, and he is doing it against pretty much every kind of lineup you can throw at him. Now flip the marquee and take a peek at what is trotting out for the roadside. Their right-hander was, back in early summer, one of the more buzzed-about breakouts in the American League. Then the wheels started to wobble. Fastball velocity has ticked down a notch, his stuff has flattened out, and across his most recent handful of outings, he has been sitting on an earned run average closer to 6 than to 3. That is not a random blip, that is a trend with legs. Even his last time out against the Yankees ended with 5 runs squeezed onto the scoreboard against him over 6 innings, and it was not one bad frame, it was a slow, steady bleed. Layer the matchup problem on top of that and it gets even messier for the visiting side. Their lineup, taken as a full season snapshot, has been the worst offense in the majors at hitting left-handed pitching this year. And that is not a soft stat. That is basically a warning label taped to the dugout wall. On top of the platoon issue, they just wrapped a physical 3-game battle down in Houston, packed everything up on a Sunday night, flew across the country, and now open a fresh series on a quick turnaround in a ballpark most of them barely visit. That travel wear is not nothing, especially for a group that has been road-weary all season and sits well underwater when they leave home. Compare that to the guys wearing home whites, who own one of the loudest home records in the sport and just took 2 out of 3 from the reigning World Series champs to close last week on a real note. Honestly, the stakes lean pretty hard one way too. The home side is chasing one of the very best records in baseball, and every home night is another brick in that foundation. The visitors, on the flip side, have been staring at a closed playoff door for weeks now, playing out the string. Yes, the road guy can bounce back on any given night. That is the nature of the sport. And yes, the home lefty has never actually faced this visiting group before, so there is a sliver of novelty risk baked in. But when the pitching edge, the platoon edge, the travel edge, the home and away splits, and the motivation all point the same direction, the case pretty much writes itself. As our first pick for this matchup, the Milwaukee Brewers money line is our full game side pick. The team playing at home, when you actually pop the hood, is not really the kind of offense that lights up a scoreboard on a random Tuesday night. They score, sure, they run a solid team total on the year, but they get there by grinding. Singles, walks, moving runners over, hit and run stuff, ugly little rallies that add up in the box score but never really explode. Power is not their calling card. In fact, when you look at league leaderboards for the long ball, they are sitting dead last in the majors. That matters more than people realize, because the quickest way for any game to shoot past most projected totals is a couple of 3-run bombs, and this group just does not really do that. Flip to the visiting bats and the offensive picture gets even quieter, honestly. Runs per game hovering around the bottom third of the league, a team/line that looks more like an early April warm-up than something a real contender should be posting. And this is a lineup that has gone through actual stretches this season where they could not scrape together 4 runs to save themselves. Even in some of their recent wins, they left runners scattered all over the bases like leftover confetti after a parade. This is a group that tends to let starters cruise through innings on the lower end of a pitch count, not chase them out by the 5th. Zoom out on the ballpark itself and the environment leans neutral, maybe even a touch to the pitcher-friendly side depending on the night. The retractable roof takes weather chaos, wind kicking toward the gap, humidity swings, sneaky summer thunderstorms rolling in off the lake. All of that gets pulled off the table entirely. No juiced flight paths, no gusts pushing balls back at the wall, just a controlled indoor climate. Neutral is not exciting to talk about, but for a low-scoring lean, neutral is very much your friend. The bullpen equation stacks another log on the fire. The home dugout has quietly assembled one of the better late-inning collections in the league, with a steady closer, dependable setup arms, and enough depth to keep the middle innings from turning into a track meet. When those bullpen doors start swinging open from the 7th onward, offense tends to dry right up. Late August baseball in general also has a habit of slowing down. Pitchers are locked into their routines, hitters are grinding through the summer fatigue, and those choppy, low-scoring, runners stranded, one run here, one run there kind of games become the theme more nights than not. Fair warning, both teams have absolutely had their nights this year where the scoreboard kept clicking over past what anyone expected, so this is not a lock, this is a lean with reasons behind it. When the offensive profiles, the bullpen depth, the neutral ballpark, and the late-season rhythm all pull the same direction though, it becomes tough to talk yourself into fireworks in this one. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. Quick commercial break. You know the deal. If you want to get our exclusive best sport picks to take things to the next level, then check out our Patreon in the link down below where we offer our best single picks, parlay picks, and much more. Go check it out. Commercial break over. Now back to the game. Chicago White Sox versus Chicago Cubs. The betting market is asking us to plant our flag on a team that just out-hit their opponent by 10 hits and still walked off the field with a loss, which tells you everything you need to know about how misleading a final score can be. Chicago's South Side crew put 14 knocks on the board Monday night at Wrigley, only to watch the game slip away in extras on a Pete Crow Armstrong walk-off blast that felt more like a Hollywood ending than a fair reflection of what actually unfolded between the lines. That kind of night usually leaves a team stewing in the clubhouse, and the good news for them is they get to run it back roughly 20 hours later, this time against a starter who has been anything but comfortable in his new uniform. Kevin Gausman came over from Toronto with a serious pedigree, but through 2 turns since the trade, the veteran righty has coughed up 8 earned runs across 12 2/3 frames, and one of those outings ended before he could sniff the 5th inning. Meanwhile, the visitors from the South Side just wrapped up a sweep of Detroit and sit atop their division with a record of 65-58, a spot nobody, and I mean nobody, had them penciled into back in April. Their lineup runs deeper than folks want to give it credit for. Miguel Vargas has been quietly stacking home runs. Munetaka Murakami keeps reminding everyone why he was such a coveted international signing. And even role players like Randall Grichuk and Andrew Benintendi have been hurting fastballs when it counts, both of them going yard just last night. On the other side, the Northsiders will be trotting out a lineup missing their Gold Glove shortstop after Dansby Swanson landed on the injured list with an oblique strain expected to sideline him for a month or longer, and losing that kind of defensive stabilizer up the middle quietly changes the math on every ground ball that finds a hole. Craig Counsell's group is talented, no question about it, but they are patching things together right now with players getting shuffled up from Iowa and infielders asked to cover unfamiliar ground. Honestly, the market is pricing this like a mismatch when the actual evidence on the field says something a whole lot closer to a coin flip, and grabbing plus money on a team that has already proven it can trade punches with this Cubs group feels like the kind of value you take without overthinking it. As our first pick for this matchup, the Chicago White Sox money line is our full game side pick. Wrigley Field in mid-August is a ballpark with a mind of its own, and even with just a modest breeze in the forecast, the summer air, temperatures parked in the mid-70s, and those famously inviting foul lines have a way of turning routine fly balls into souvenirs for the bleacher faithful. The home team's rotation depth chart looks a little more Frankenstein than they would like right now, with Edward Cabrera heading back to the injured list nursing a blister on his pitching hand and other key arms tied up for extended stretches, meaning whoever takes the ball tonight is working without much of a safety net behind him. The roadside, meanwhile, is essentially cobbling together a bullpen game, opening things up with a lefty who typically works 1 or 2 frames before handing off. And their relief crew is coming off a weekend in Detroit where they piled up serious innings across a 3-game sweep, so fresh arms are in shorter supply than usual. Both offenses have been showing up in a real way lately. One club leads the majors in on-base percentage, while the other has already launched 164 home runs as a group and lives on the long ball as its identity. Seiya Suzuki keeps producing at home with power in the middle of the order. Nico Horner has been racking up multi-hit nights at a pace that would make any leadoff man envious. And Alex Bregman continues to give the lineup that professional at-bat presence that keeps rallies breathing when they should be dying. Here's the thing though, the last time these two clubs stepped onto the same field, the scoreboard read 7-5 in 10 innings with plenty of hard contact echoing from both dugouts, and that felt less like an anomaly and more like a preview of what happens when these lineups settle into a hitter-friendly setting. Sure, there is always the scenario where somebody's ace locks in and steals a quiet, low-scoring affair, and rivalry games can occasionally get weird when the emotions run too high for anyone to see the ball. But between the shaky pitching depth on both benches, the friendly confines that reward hard contact, the offensive form we all watched with our own eyes just last night, and a rowdy rivalry crowd that tends to feed the energy in the batter's box rather than tighten it up, the run column has every reason to keep filling up as the innings tick by. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. Washington Nationals versus Texas Rangers. The Rangers are stumbling back into Arlington after a road trip that soured pretty much everyone in the clubhouse. 2-5 out west, dropping series to the Angels and to the Athletics, and now they finally get to sleep in their own beds again. There is something about coming home after a long, ugly trip that tends to shake the fog off a team, especially one still fighting for a division title and a wild card cushion at the same time. The team walking in from the other dugout is limping just as hard, only their limp has been dragging on for a lot longer. Washington just got broomed in 3 straight by the Mets to open a 9-game road trip, and their record away from home lately has been ugly, with just 1 win in their last 11 games on the road. That kind of stretch tends to snowball, especially when the guys they leaned on all summer are no longer in the lineup. Their most prolific power bat from the first half is now playing his home games in the Bronx. Their all-star outfielder is on the shelf with an oblique injury. Their best clutch bat from the middle of the order got shipped to Boston at the deadline. Into that thinned-out lineup, they are throwing a rookie lefty tonight who is making just his second big league start. That lefty's debut against the Cubs was a full welcome to the show moment, with 5 walks in 4+ innings, 78 pitches just to get that far, and a post-game quote from the pitcher himself admitting he had only brought his sea stuff to the mound. Now he boards a plane for his first road trip in a big league uniform, walks into Globe Life Field with the roof closed and the Texas summer sealed outside, the crowd loud, and a home lineup that has feasted on southpaws all year. This home team has gone 13-3 in its last 16 home games against left-handed starters, and its interleague home number against lefties is even more absurd, sitting at 17-4 over the last 21. Rookie jitters plus command problems plus an unfamiliar mound tend to mix into a very short outing, and that plays right into a home bullpen situation the visitors are ill-equipped to handle. On the other side, the veteran on the mound for the home team is not going to blow anyone's socks off, but he has kept his team in games all summer, sitting in the mid-3 range for earned run average as a starter and coming off a very tidy 5-inning, 1 earned run outing his last time out. Add up all the small stuff too. Home team returning after a brutal trip, Tuesday night at home where they have been thriving, an interleague opponent that has struggled everywhere it goes, and a rookie starter in what will feel like an alien environment. Everything is pointing the same direction, and it is the direction of the dugout that hosts these games. As our first pick for this matchup, the Texas Rangers money line is our full game side pick. The starting pitching lines here can be a little misleading if you glance at them too quickly. On paper, one guy has a shiny mid-3 earned run average and the other is a highly regarded prospect with all the scouting notes attached to his name. Look a little closer, though, and both of these arms feel like short outings waiting to happen. The rookie lefty for the visitors needed 78 pitches just to get through 4+ innings in his debut, walked 5 hitters along the way, and admitted afterward he had not brought his best stuff to the mound. That is the kind of workload that basically guarantees a manager's hand hovers over the bullpen phone starting in the 3rd inning. The home team starter has been shuffled between the bullpen and the rotation all season, and his most recent turn topped out at exactly 5 innings, which is roughly where his skipper will be looking to pull him again. Do the quick math on that and you land at somewhere around 9 or 10 innings that need to be soaked up by the 2 bullpens. And honestly, that is where things get spicy. The visitors' relief corps has been a national conversation piece all year for the wrong reasons, carrying a team earned run average that lives comfortably above 5 and racking up blown saves at a pace flirting with historic territory. The home team's bullpen has looked a little steadier on paper, but over the last stretch, that group has been leaking runs at a rate closer to 4.5, which is not the safety net a team wants to be leaning on in a tight divisional race. Middle relievers dropped into leverage spots against motivated lineups is exactly how crooked innings happen, and both sides have hitters who can turn a walk or a bloop into a 3-run swing on any given pitch. The home team has a right fielder acquired last winter who has been on absolute fire in August, slashing well above 400 with multiple homers across his last 10 games, and their veteran power bats can still bend a scoreboard with one swing. The visitors have a shortstop who just went 2 for 4 with a 3-run bomb during their weekend series, and their young third baseman has been squaring up baseballs from the right side lately. There is a fair counter here that deserves to be named. The venue has played more like a graveyard than a launching pad the last 2 seasons, and both offenses have gone through cold spells recently. That is real and worth respecting. But when the starting pitching projects to be finished by the 6th, when both relief units have been leaking, and when the lineups still carry legit power threats, the runs tend to show up in the middle innings whether the park wants them there or not. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. Los Angeles Angels versus Houston Astros. There's something about this specific spot in mid-August that tends to sharpen the focus for a first-place club at home. The Astros sit at 63-62, holding on to the top spot in the AL West by the narrowest of margins, and they've been treating the visiting Halos like a rest day all season long, sweeping every previous meeting between these two clubs. Los Angeles rolls in at 49-76 with a road mark of 20-40 that tells you almost everything about how this group travels. Credit where it's due, the Angels have split their last 10 and just took a series off Texas, so they're not exactly showing up to fill out the schedule. Here's the thing though, playing spoiler in a random road stop is one animal, walking into a closed-roof Houston building for a series opener is a different animal entirely. That difference matters even more when the ball goes to a rookie starter who's made 4 big league appearances so far and has failed to finish 5 innings in 3 of them. George Klassen has interesting stuff, no question, but the results haven't caught up yet, and his one clean outing still came with a very short leash from the bench. If he short-circuits early and puts the Angels' bullpen on the clock in the middle innings, that's the exact opening a lineup like Houston's tends to walk right through at home. The Astros are also 7-1 in their last 8 series openers, which suggests this is a spot the group consistently treats with a little extra edge. Layer on the fact that the home side is trying to snap a 2-game skid of their own, and it shapes up like the kind of night a first-place club circles as a get-right opportunity. Behind everything sits Josh Hader, whose sub-1 earned run average and steady save workload have made him one of the most trusted late-inning arms in the American League this year. Reach the 9th inning with a lead, the game's basically already written. The recipe is honestly right there. Better roster, better back end, home comfort, and a young starter across the diamond who hasn't yet shown he can turn a real major league order over 3 times. As our first pick for this matchup, the Houston Astros money line is our full game side pick. Shifting over to what the scoreboard might actually look like when the dust settles, this feels like a night where both bullpens end up doing a lot more work than either manager would prefer to admit publicly. The starters walking to the mound tonight have earned run averages that raise eyebrows straight out of the gate. One sits north of 6.5, the other well up into the 5s, and combinations like that don't tend to end in tidy little pitchers' duels. Christian Javier for Houston has been especially rocky since coming back from his mid-season injury, surrendering 15 hits across just 11 innings in his last 2 turns, which is not a rate of contact you sustain without giving up crooked numbers on the board. There is one quirk worth flagging, though the over has cashed in his last 4 starts when he's had at least 8 days between outings, and he's walking in tonight on more than a week of rest. Then there's the setting itself. Dakin Park with the roof closed in August plays like a hitter's environment, with park factors that lean toward runs and home runs, and the ball carrying nicely through that climate-controlled indoor air. Fold in a Houston lineup that features Yordan Alvarez hitting .321 with 36 home runs, and you've got a middle-of-the-order presence that will absolutely punish any pitch left over the plate. On the visiting side, Zach Neto has been a genuine catalyst at shortstop with 76 runs scored and 16 stolen bases, which is the sort of profile that turns a walk or a bloop single into real pressure and then into actual runs across the board. Now, I want to be fair here. A few recent trends do point in the other direction. The Astros have gone under in a solid chunk of their recent home spots against losing clubs, and the Angels themselves have gone under in 8 of their last 10 games, which is not a small sample by any stretch. Those are real, and I'm not going to pretend they don't exist. But when you weigh the trend noise against the actual arms on the hill, the actual dimensions of the ballpark, and the actual quality of the sluggers in each lineup, the underlying ingredients tilt in one clear direction. That's a recipe you follow, not one you fight. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. Los Angeles Dodgers versus Colorado Rockies. Colorado in mid-August is one of those matchups where the standings tell you almost everything you need to know before first pitch. The visitors sit at 74-51, still holding the throne in their division, still the reigning champs, still the team every other roster in the National League circles when the schedule comes out. Colorado, meanwhile, sits at 50 to 74, quietly playing out the string, already thinking about what next spring might bring. That kind of gap does not vanish just because the game happens to be at altitude. Coors Field has a reputation for chaos, sure, but chaos does not automatically flip the better team into the worst team. The season series between these two clubs already sits at 7-3 in favor of the roadside, and that is not a coincidence. When one team has this much more talent, this much more experience in leverage spots, and this much more of a track record against this specific opponent, the winner tends to right itself before anyone even throws a pitch. The visitors also hand the ball tonight to a lefty who has quietly stitched together one of the more consistent runs of his career since arriving in his new uniform earlier this summer. He has been the dependable, innings-eating type his club badly needed while the rest of the rotation battled an injury bug that would have sunk lesser rosters. On the other side, the home team leans on a right-hander whose home ballpark numbers over the length of his career would make most fans wince. He has been especially rough since the All-Star break, coughing up runs at a rate that suggests he is closer to a spot starter than a legitimate stopper right now. Now, honestly, there is pushback here, and I hear it. The roadside has limped through August, going 5-10 across their last stretch of games, and the bullpen has been leaned on hard through an 11-day stretch without an off day. Fair concerns, all of them, but the bats came alive last night in a serious way, hanging 11 runs on this same opponent and looking every bit like the defending champs again. Momentum in baseball is fleeting, sure, but bounce-back energy after a rough patch is a real thing, and this club has been through enough August under this manager to know how to steady the ship in Denver. Give me the far more talented, far more experienced, far more accomplished side and let the class gap do the heavy lifting. As our first pick for this matchup, the Los Angeles Dodgers money line is our full game side pick. Coors Field carries a certain assumption before anyone even glances at the matchup. Thin air, cozy alleys, a summer night in Denver, and suddenly everyone is bracing for a track meet. The reality on this particular evening is a bit more layered than that. Start with the arms on the mound. The visiting lefty has, quietly, been one of the more efficient contact managers around since coming over mid-season. He does not rack up strikeouts, but he pounds the zone, limits free passes, and keeps hitters off balance with a mix that plays even in unforgiving venues. The home righty, for all his ballpark demons over the years, has actually suppressed hard contact at a respectable clip this season. Neither guy is going to whiff 10 hitters, but both are the type who can churn through 6 innings without surrendering the crooked number frame. Weather is another quiet factor people forget with Denver. First pitch temperatures should sit in the mid-80s, but Coors cools off fast once the sun drops behind the mountains out west. By the 5th inning, it is often noticeably cooler than it was during batting practice, and the ball simply does not carry after dark the way it does under a scorching afternoon sky. Here is the other thing worth mentioning. The roadside has been in a genuine offensive lull this month, scratching out closer to 3.5 runs per game across their last handful of contests. The home lineup has some pop, but it also strikes out at a high clip and has been leaning on 1 or 2 bats to carry the whole batting order night after night. Both dugouts have landed on the underside of totals at a healthy rate in their most recent stretch of games, which hints that the market may be pricing this one off the venue label alone rather than the actual matchup on paper. Yesterday saw the scoreboard light up in a big way, sure, and it is tempting to just extend that logic straight into tonight. But recency bias is a dangerous drug at Coors, and the smart move often fades the previous night when the market overreacts to it. Given the 2 arms on the bump, the cooling evening conditions, and the offensive rhythm both clubs are showing lately, this one has a real shot to land in a spot the market is not respecting enough. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. That's all for now, so if you have any other games you would like reviewed, then leave a comment down below with the game you would like analyzed, subscribe to our channel, leave a like on this video, and we'll get to it as soon as we possibly can. We would also love to hear your opinion on the picks presented to you in this video, whether you agree or disagree with them, so leave a comment down below and do let us know.